Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am the Pope and I have another video for you guys, and I want to talk a little bit more about health, and I want to talk about it from my perspective, from my personal experience, alright? And let's just have a discussion because I want to bring it around, obviously, to a bigger topic, a bigger perspective, because I see all of these things being connected in the same way, basically. So I would say that a lot of my health problems even started before I even hit puberty. I think I first started getting eczema when I was 3. And I would only I'd get it in like a small patch on my arm. And I also know that being born around in the late 90s, in 98, they gave me lots of vaccinations. Certainly not as much as some of the kids are getting these days, but it was enough to where I believe there was some severe damage. Definitely enough to, and also pointing to something else, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. Being born via cesarean section can affect your gut flora, and it will slowly develop into a problem where you have a bacterial overgrowth of bad bacteria. And it can be so extensive that it actually goes into your small intestines, and a lot of people have it. I think it's something ridiculous. Like anywhere from 40 to 80% of the population has this bacterial overgrowth into their intestines, and it can spread throughout the body, and especially if you were eating really toxic food, consuming lots of free radicals that are just like ripping electrons out of your atoms, out of the cells of your organs, you'll start getting all these micro fissures in your intestines, and all this stuff will leak out. It'll go into your brain. They have cut open brains of Alzheimer's patients and saw it's just riddled with fungus growth all throughout. And another thing to consider, especially because a lot of people live around the coast, but especially with the way American houses are constructed, sheetrock, all these materials, if there's any kind of flood, water accident, whatever, and you have that growth and it dries and it's blown around in your AC and it's broken down into these microscopic particles of dry mold, and we breathe that in, and they can become so small that they actually pass through our blood-brain barrier. And this is a chronic mold illness that I believe a lot of people have, and it will literally make you insane. And then you add on top of that too, especially for women, our hormone cycles are so particular and delicate. And if you're not taking care of it, your hormones will be all over the place, your emotions and feelings and everything. And especially in a woman's body, it's so vivid, it is so overwhelming. And if you don't understand that, you should read testimonials of male to female trans people when they discuss the experience of taking estrogen. And let me just tell you, being a girl is hard. Like an organic woman, when you have to suffer through perimenopause and menopause, postmenopause, that period will actually last for about 15 years in a woman's life. And unfortunately, if you have a whole bunch of women who are not educated on nutrition A lot of us want to look good, right? So we go on these sort of 80s low-fat, starve yourself kind of diets, workout, build up cortisol in your body, which is not good, and excessive cardio, just all this sort of old-fashioned way of thinking. And even when you are doing stuff like HIIT, like high-intensity interval training and low-fat and whatever, that's still not even ideal for a woman. There's still a period of time when you are still, when you're still menstruating, that there's a period of time before you menstruate where you are trying to build progesterone in your body, and it actually does require carbs like sweet potato and chocolate and things like that. And these are things that I have really struggled to earn this knowledge and figure this out, especially because unfortunately a lot of stuff is behind paywalls. You do have to pay for books. You do have to, and you also have to know the right questions and unfortunately have the symptoms to look up and discover these things, and the belief in myself to question my doctors because they were failing me, and I wasn't just going to collapse into helplessness and just like, oh well, like I guess this is just life, I guess I'm just gonna be a sick young woman in my 20s and just never know what it feels like to be healthy or happy or whatever, not able to have this energy to work out, or my body just never being able to heal or recover from an injury or whatever, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on and on. And more importantly, the mental thing, all right? Because life itself was hard enough with all of the sort of traumatic events that played out. But when I understand fundamentally the sort of handicap of a unhealthy gut flora and the poison plastics in my water and like food bank baby quality eating po' boys and like rice and fish all the time, just lots of carbs, and it's just not ideal, really not getting a variety of vegetables growing up, everything from a can, like nothing fresh, no garden, nothing. That's a whole other tangent to talk about why we push for lawns, why we push for grass lawns instead of gardens, and why we decorate our streets with non-edible food and whatever, it's obvious when you say it out loud. Everybody's like, oh, well, yeah, of course you can't have free food, or nobody would ever, go to the grocery store, and then the economy would collapse, and then nobody would have money. And it's like, it's such a lie. It's such a delusion when you really think it out. It's like, if we had an abundance of food, then we would not be having to work to survive. And therefore, we'd be able to have more quality things and not so much of this highly addictive sort of substances or these products that are intended to poison us, because they are also buying into this pharmaceutical medical system that we have here in America. And we know, just listen to any kind of medical commercial, and we all know there's way too fucking many playing on every form of media. Listen to all of these symptoms that they just rattle out. And if you actually look at their data, like they're doing all these double blinds or whatever, and most of these medications only have like a 36% actually helping. It's nothing, 20% maybe, and that's like pretty good. Like, but there are substances that we know of, like MDMA, where veterans, I believe, have like somewhere from like 84 to like 90 something % success rate of healing trauma, moving on from one treatment of MDMA. They also have ketamine clinics and whatever, and these numbers are so high, so successful in the data. And then when you compare it to the shit that the FDA is approving, that these companies are making, and they put you on one medication and it causes all these other problems, you got to take all these other different medications, and this is how you medicalize an entire population. This is how you literally generate a slave population. We are peasants, and we're literally not even allowed to grow our own food, our own land, have access to our... Is this not what the British Empire did to India? Is this not what Gandhi was rising up against when they were trying to go to the salt plains, salt flats, and make their own salt, make their own sea salt? And Britain was trying to attack them to get them to, outlaw that, and they were only allowed to buy the imported salts of Britain. And it's such an old story. We know the MO. We already know what's up. But it's just a matter of educating ourselves too, to know how to heal our bodies, all right? We need to, I think, in order to beat this health scare agenda, all right? And, I honestly, this is a side note, I was looking at some astrology around the attack in Israel, and I was noticing a lot of activity around Virgo, Libra, right? Virgo is a lot to do with health. And we know that Israel, Palestine, they had that shot forced on them, among other things. The abuse is obvious, and we just don't do anything about it. And I think that's my biggest gripe, my biggest confusion with humanity is how have they convinced us to be so complacent? How have they convinced us to not actually, and you know what it is? It is the health. It is the health. It is the health. And if you think that you are going to be healthy by going to an actual doctor, unless you need surgery, or you have such a disharmony of bacteria like strep throat that you need antibiotics, after those sorts of treatments, you have to doctor yourself, because your doctor's not going to do it. Your doctor's not going to hand you some homemade sauerkraut and homemade, El Rotary yogurt and be like, here you go. That never, ever, ever happens. I've never, ever, ever heard of any doctor just being like, here, something that's actually high quality, that's actually gonna fucking heal you, because I, as a doctor, know I just gave you poison. I just gave you antibiotics, which we know will kill everything, right? And we know that causes problems. But I swear, it's only happening on purpose because people want it to happen on purpose, because it's serving a purpose, because people are generating so much money off of this, all right? And the minute that people are not starving, we're not working, because we have our own food, we have our own gardens, we have our own whatever, we have communities, and we can trade and ship things around, right? Then work evolves, progresses into something different. It's something higher than just, I flip burgers at McDonald's so I don't fucking die. And it becomes, I have time, I have the ability to choose what I want to do, to allow myself to be inspired and to contribute. It's literally a much more wholesome, community-based mindset. And a lot of this is possible too. When you're eating El Rotary yogurt, you are creating more oxytocin, which is your bonding hormone, your chemical hormone. If you are having more of this, you are definitely going to want to be around people more. I promise you, like, the reason why people are so miserable and almost seem demonically possessed, it's because they kind of are possessed by toxins, by bacteria, by all this junk and illness in our bodies that we are taught to think is normal. We are taught to think that our bodies starting to degenerate in our 40s, 50s, 60s is normal. And it is not. It really is not. We have been poisoned. We have been poisoned, especially in America. Especially in America. So many of these other countries in Europe have all of this shit illegal because it is literally poison. But we don't do that in America because we get so sensitive of our freedom. But the thing is, we aren't free. We literally aren't free. If the market is dominated by these poisons, by these toxins, and all these corporations can just get away with keeping all of this stuff out of mainstream, labeling it as libel or whatever, that everybody should have the freedom to die slowly from drinking Coke or Diet Coke or whatever. This is the battle that we need to be fighting, because if we are literally insane, how? Of course we're going to be complacent. If you feel like shit and you are flipping burgers at McDonald's to survive kind of energy, or whatever, working at your miserable insurance company, or working at your miserable teaching job, or whatever, and you're treated like shit, you're not respected, and that's because everybody is agitated. Nobody wants to be there. No one is willingly contributing. But if we had a society where we were not treated like peasants, where we actually had our own land and we were having these sort of community garden sharing type of dynamics, which are very possible and already exist in the world right now, work would become something else. Work would evolve. We would only be doing work we choose to do, that we see has benefit. We actually have time to create something of quality instead of quantity, because we gotta hurry to get to that deadline and I gotta get it done, otherwise I'll lose my job and I won't have my paycheck and I won't be able to eat and I won't be able to live and blah, 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 blah. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And the homelessness thing is also bullshit too. We can go into all of these different things, all these different conspiracy theories, right? But there's an even deeper conspiracy. And that is understanding who they are. When I'm talking about they, or these people, or the deep state, or whatever, I'm talking about some tormented souls that have incarnated here on earth, that are communing with other tormented souls that are so tormented they can't even come here. They can't even incarnate in a form, not in a human form. They're only capable of possessing things like robots or computers or, dolls or whatever. They can only kind of interact with this plane, but they absolutely know how to manipulate and attack our spiritual plane and our mental and emotional plane. So if you're already vulnerable from your nutrition, from the poisons in your house, in your water bottles, everywhere, the fact that we walk in shoes and never touch the ground, because let's be honest, who wants to walk in grass? It's itchy. Again, why do we have grass lawns? Why is that mandated by a lot of HOA? In order to have your house, the house that you could afford, it's so, the problem just compounds and compounds and compounds, and yet everyone's complacent. And the minute you try and do something, there's like this spin of you're trying to steal our freedom. But this is the path to freedom. It is the path to freedom. If we no longer have to work to survive, we no longer have to work for our food and the indirect, toxic, world-polluting sense, we're living more in tune with the natural seasons and cycles of our earth, which I don't think people are aware that we humans have natural seasons and cycles, and we are only so miserable because we are out of sync. And it's because we're essentially living like animals in a zoo. We live in these artificial houses that are made from all of these weird, cheap substances that are just strong enough to get the job done. Although, I'll be honest, I've seen so many videos, time and time again, even in real life, where the infrastructure is just falling apart because they're just using such cheap fucking materials. The house ends up collapsing in on itself, right? This is a world that is not motivated for quality. We are a quantity-based, shitty crap world because we're trying to survive. We're being manipulated by these monopolies that have poisoned the markets. We can talk about different family names like the DuPonts or whatever who have like Teflon pans and how we understand how Teflon poisons us. Like, we are being affected on so many different levels, and to deny it or act like it isn't affecting you is ignorant. And the signs are all around you, but you have been conditioned to think that it's normal. You have been conditioned to think it's normal to have all of these different surgeries and maladies in your 60s. That's not normal. That's not normal. And you're just gonna have like a slow fucking decline over the next 30 years. Hopefully, if you live to your 90, we imagine that's really quite good around here. But I feel that with the medicine that we have available to us, easily we could be living till we're like 120 or even older. And there are people who do that. And they're usually natives, you know, like a native Japanese woman who has been eating with her sort of ancestral diet on that sort of homestead diet life. And it is regional. And a lot of us, we have to eat sort of in tandem with our heritage, our genetics, right? But there is a conspiracy theory around that as well of wheat and a lot of these plants not being the same. And as soon as we started agriculture way back then, that was kind of our downfall. That's when you have teeth falling out of people's heads. That's not normal. You should not be losing your permanent adult teeth. It's not normal. Having all of these cavities, not normal. Not normal. People in the Amazon don't have cavities. Why? Because they actually can hunt their food. They actually have access to organ meats, right? They can get the vitamin MK4 and MK7 in their liver, and that's what helps your teeth, right? And selenium and seafood. And we all know that our oceans are actively being poisoned on purpose. Nobody does anything about it. Nobody wants to make it illegal because there's too much money involved. And I'm like, the solutions are here, y'all. God has given us everything we need, guys. We need to just get it together. And I don't know if just preaching to a bunch of people that you need to be fasting, you need to completely cut the sugar out, completely cut the carbs out. You really need to start researching and experimenting with your own body, with your nutrition, with your metabolic health. Look through your house. Do you have mold? Do you have old mold? Do you know that you've had water damage in your house before? These are things that you should consider. Maybe getting like an air purifier, something. Definitely a water purifying system, a really good water purifying system. I use Zero Water, and my partner has something else, this sort of device. It's sort of like I think a really kind of expensive filter, but that's the kind of thing you need to be investing your money into. And especially if you are all messed up with your bacteria and everything, you're going to be craving all these snack stuff, and it's just not good. Once you kind of make the switch, you start craving the healthier stuff. The diet feels more appropriate. But it's sort of, it is a very difficult transition. And there is some serious dark spiritual energy that you're purging out of your body throughout this whole process, but once you keep it pure, then you can start having these sort of natural godly impulses coming out of you, which is an impulse for community connection, right? And then an impulse to serve and to fit into a function of that community, to contribute, to be out, to live, to relish in life, savor it and seize the day, that kind of energy. I am just not seeing that with people, other than people who are motivated to survive. And even the millionaires, the million upon millionaires, are still motivated to survive. They have the money wound worse than anyone. Even the poorest of poor people have a better relationship with money than the richest of the rich. Those people are poor up here and in here. Poor. They have all that money, all that resource, and they still don't know what the fuck to do with it. Still don't know what the fuck to do with it. They still are powerless. They still aren't it's like, come on. Do you want to actually start a movement? Do we actually believe and protest? Like, why do we memorialize people like Gandhi? Because he actually started the movement. He made the motion, and it worked. It worked for the most part. Why do we only believe that some people can start a movement? Some people can change their minds. There are really some basic shit that we can all fucking agree on, like health and food, survival. Hello? Can we not agree on that? The only reason we're not agreeing on that is because there are people who are being paid to disagree, because they signed some kind of contract with their company that they have to support the company, right? It's madness. Why are they doing it? To survive. Don't you see how this is insane? You just go around and around and around. This is the kind of stuff we need to be focusing on, that we need to focus our activism on. And I'm sorry if you think that some non-binary fucking loser trying to take a shit in a women's restroom is more important than us having food and not being poisoned on a mass scale. You are fucking insane. You are a waste of time and space, because you can't be non-binary taking a shit in a women's restroom if you are dead. if you are so sick. And maybe we wouldn't have people trying to infiltrate a community of, honestly, mental illness sufferers, right? If you're transsexual, you're suffering from gender dysphoria. It's a mental illness. It's not something you want. It's not something glamorous. And then you have other kind of perverts trying to infiltrate this, right? A lot of this, again, like our guts. We are sick. We are being poisoned in our food. We are being poisoned in our media of what we think is normal. And the fact that we all can't just like wake up to, oh, We can actually, like, it's such a joke. It's such a joke, especially when you have people like AOC who's suddenly going to give a fuck about sunscreen. Sunscreen. She's going to talk about the poisons in the sunscreen and how we were lied to about it not being able to go into our bloodstream, which was a lie. And yes, that's how you actually get cancer. And yeah, it's actually how you get sun cancer too, when you have a catalyst like the sun burning chemicals into your skin. It's a joke. But fundamentally, poisoning our water, denying it. We've seen this in Floyd, Michigan. We've seen this in East Palestine, Ohio. Poisoning shit. Lying, covering it as much as possible until they literally fucking can't. And it's still just deny. And we just are okay with it? Like, why? Why? We can go march up to the White House because we think the election was fake, but we can't go march for our food rights, for our health rights, for our poison rights. Making shit illegal doesn't mean limiting yourself or limiting your freedom. Your freedom, your right to health is what gives you your freedom. Because if you're not healthy, you can't do shit. You don't have freedom. You're stuck in a bed, or you're stuck on a medicine. You're stuck in a certain kind of sick lifestyle that is inhuman. It's like a zoo. It's like a zoo. So this is my rant. This is my rant for today. This is what's on my mind and my heart and my soul. And I hope maybe somebody will hear this. We can just pass this around, get this discussion going. And because if we want to start organizing protests or strikes or whatever around our food production, it all needs to fundamentally be deconstructed and outlawed. And these people need to be brought to justice. Because what they are doing to us, because, here's another example. I know it's a pretty long video, but I'm going to go into another story here. My childhood was a nightmare because of my mother. And I was my mother's last child. I was her fourth child. And she was already starting to go into, or starting her menopause cycle when I was like 10, basically. She lost her mind. And she just progressively, I felt like, got crazier and crazier and just like worser for the next 15 years, pretty much, until I am an adult, right? She probably started a little younger than that. But I always had a horrific relationship with my mother because I really felt like she was possessed. And it was like Jekyll and Hyde, where, she'd be gone, mom was gone, and then her eyes are just beady, black. They're just it's called sanpaku eyes, right? And it's when the lids are so big, the eyes are so big. And that means it's like a hyper violent, crazed kind of psycho killer. She'd get that look, and she was so violent and mean, and you'd have no idea because she's literally the sweetest little lady ever, and she's the head of her special education department, and you would have no idea that she was a fucking demon. She was literally insane. I remember she used to wear these night robes, right? And she would literally rip it off. She would be completely naked underneath and jump on top of you and just start beating the shit out of you. Especially, she would do it to my brother, right? Naked mother, ripping her clothes off and then jumping on top of her son, beating the shit out of him. And he's just I don't want to touch you. And she knows, and it's an actual fucking crazy person. But I know for a fact how long we had been poisoned by mold at that point, just how bad the health advice was, her suffering with pretty much an eating disorder that's kind of not her fault because the 80s literally programmed her to have this sort of eating disorder, and then pushing that on me, and it wasn't, and all my other siblings, they also really had some problems, but especially me, my oldest sister, and my mom had that sensitivity, and it's an allergy kind of thing as well. It's how you get allergies. Your body is not in harmony, and these bacteria literally control your thoughts. They control your feelings. And she was like possessed by bad bacteria. To a degree. I mean, I'm not going to like completely wipe her slate clean, because she is just a crazy evil bitch. Like, and she's just wounded to her core, and she doesn't want to heal herself. And that's unfortunate, but I see this play out in so many other people, not just my mom. I can have mercy and understanding for her situation, because I'm suffering kind of from the same situation as well. But thank God, she's decades down the line of suffering with this level of poor health knowledge and not taking care of herself right. And when you have a society of children who are being raised by crazy perimenopausal women who are not nurturing their hormones or their cycle, they're all ignorant, right? And then you have a whole bunch of traumatized kids who are growing up to be like narcissists or just totally not productive, and nobody's doing what they want. And to me, it just seems like the root is quite obvious. And maybe even once we kind of reach this goal with our food, with our health, with kind of the products that were sold, and actually being able to advocate for and outlaw these poisons and prosecute these people who chose to poison us on purpose because it would make them profit, all of that, we might even understand a deeper root problem after that. But the food, the health, it seems to be causing a vast majority of our problems. So I just wanted to talk it out, bring some attention to that, start a discussion. This is the kind of thing you need to be focusing on if you actually care about the world, you actually want to help, right? Doing gossip tarot readings is not the same as protesting poisons in our system that inherently prevent other people from accessing your psychic abilities. At this point, because we don't have this kind of like peace in our world, it really takes a dramatic amount of trauma to wake up somebody or sort of burst their third eye open to experience the spiritual world in this way. I would love to be able to move beyond that to where we don't need trauma to create psychics anymore, that we can just allow the human body to naturally develop, and we just know how to sort of nurture that process along the way, all while respecting the full sovereignty of that child, right? And protecting them, right? So I'm going to leave it with that. All right. I love you guys so much. Thank you. If you watched all this way, please share this video around. I want everybody to hear this message. I want everybody to be on the same page of like, we need to get our priorities straight around here. All right. Food and health is number one. We're not going to be able to get anything else done if only, so many people can even have this lifestyle of just being able to eat like a homesteader, actually having healthy gut bacteria. We don't have to pay for these expensive kind of probiotic pills where there's like 2 capsules and whatever. It's like, no, We can literally make yogurt at home. We can ferment vegetables at home. Blah, blah, blah. There's solutions. So let me know what you guys think down below. What kind of other conspiracy theories or whatever you see kind of branch off this issue, because I just feel like at the end of the day that we are not fighting up. We are not standing up and fighting for ourselves because we're sick and we're tired. So yeah, thanks guys. I'll see y'all around. Bye.
This program was made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.